Okay, still not there for you, Maggie. Hopefully it will come back. Okay. Well, I'll keep my screen up. It's lesson 3. Blackboard's being a bit funky. So you should be able to see my screen. So what are we going to do today? We're going to do some more. Do some more with budgeting. Yeah, so Justin's working on mobile, I guess, which is odd. We want to talk about scope creep today. Okay, interesting. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about different ways of managing projects with some methodologies called waterfall and agile that you guys probably got a bit of an introduction to last semester, I would think. Right? A note about your team performance agreements. But in general, they were well done. So I've marked those, got some great team names. And the documents overall, everybody's was really professional, which I was really happy about. So we got some great team names and team logos. So here are all the team names, which were well done. In general, I thought the agreements were good. There was one kind of consistent piece missing in most of the agreements, which was I felt that the how you're going to make decisions, which was probably the most important section. Most teams simply said, well, we're going to vote. The challenge with that is if you can see the number of team members in each team, we've got even numbers. So part of what I want you to do with your agreement that you need to figure out before next week is, yeah, but what happens if we vote on an important decision and the vote is 2-2? What do we do then? So I wanted your agreement to spell that out. If you have some kind of deadlock, what's the process? And there's different ways you could handle that. So in the past, some teams have said, well, we have a designated project manager, and in the case of a tie vote, the project manager is going to decide. Or you may have some other process. It's really up to you. But ultimately, just saying we're going to take a vote, there's got to be, when you have an even number of team members, you got to have kind of a backup process for the scenario where you have a vote that's deadlocked. Okay. So I want you to figure that out. We're going to, next week in class, I'll have meetings with each team. And I'd like to know, what do you do in the case that you have a 2-2 vote? So between now and then, I want you as a team to figure that out. Okay. Everything else I thought was good with overall, was happy with the performance agreement. So basically 5 pretty easy % for everybody. So a reminder that assignment 1 is due next week. So a couple things I just also wanted to mention in relation to assignment 1. So I have gotten some invitations to some of your Freedcamp projects. So please make sure that you do invite me. And so one of the things that I want you to do, there is time tracking here, but it's not enabled by default. So there's a couple things in Freedcamp your team needs to do. One is you want to go into the settings. I did send an email out about this with some screenshots, but I just wanted to review it. If you go into the Manage System, by default, the time tracking is off. So we want to set the time tracking on. So Braden, Camilo, Rudy, I'm doing this for your team, okay? So we want the time tracking to be on, okay? Right, it may be whoever set the project up would be the person that needs to do it. I think you're correct, Justin. Thank you. Okay. So make sure you enable the time tracking, and that all the time because then you get this. And then whenever you do any work on the project, you need to go into the time and add a time record. Put in how much time did you work and what were you doing? Okay, because this is going to be part of that member contributions that you're figuring out. You should be able to look at each other's time, and this kind of keeps you accountable to make sure that everybody's doing their fair share. excuse me, the other reason you need to be logging your time is because this is all project management time that would count towards your budget. So if you don't log any of the time towards assignment 1, you won't know how much time you actually spent. Well, it's not, you have to log it manually. It doesn't automatically track your time, so you have to record it. So each person has to go in whenever you work on the project and make sure you add basically a timesheet. Okay? So please make sure you set that up. The other thing I'm going to recommend on the task section, maybe I'll just pick one of the other, just go to code dictionary. So we've got a task here. So by default, the task list looks like this, right? It just gives you a list, which you can check them off. There's a setting here which I recommend you change. So the default setting is it just lists them as tasks. We'll talk about why, but there's this alternate setting here called Kanban, which is we'll talk a bit about, and it gives you this view instead, like a card view, and it divides your tasks into basically to do, doing, and done. I find it's you don't have to use this. Your team can use the list view if you want. You can use the default view. But I found in working with Freedcamp for a number of years that using this Kanban style is much more effective in terms of being able to visually see where are we at in the project. How much have we finished? How much have we not started? And how much are we sort of in the middle of? So I would recommend you change this setting on the task list so that it shows this way. I think it makes it a lot easier to stay on top of your project this way. So that's just under tasks and settings. I would recommend toggling this to the Kanban style. We'll sort of touch on this later in class today. Okay, we did it last week we did a sample budget, right? We talked about doing a basic WordPress site for a little not-for-profit organization, and we budgeted that out. We sort of itemized it, and we came up with a budget. Let's see where we landed. Right. So we came up with this budget, maybe about $3,400, $3,500. We itemized all the different things we would have to do, and we kind of estimated a best case and worst case scenario. We came up with a cost that was about halfway. So we might even want to bump this up a little bit just for a little buffer. If halfway was $3,400 between our best case and worst case, I'd probably quote it around $3,600. I'd add it up a little. And then we also made sure we added time for doing quality assurance and project management, right? So all of the non-design and development tasks that are involved in the project, it's all still work that we should get paid for. It's all still billable time. So we kind of did this one together. I'm going to give you a separate project now, and maybe we'll use the breakout rooms in Blackboard, sorry, in WebEx. And I want you, with your breakout group, to come up with a budget for it. Okay. Now, is Blackboard still unavailable? If it is, that's fine. I can just share the file through OneDrive. Okay, no problem. I am nothing if I'm not adaptable. Okay. So here is the file. Let's see. So what I want you to do, please download a copy of this, and I'm going to put you in group, set up the breakout groups. And as a group, just open it up for a minute. If you click on the budget tab, here are the items you can see. I'll also just put them in the chat if that's easy as well. So here are all the items they need. So this is a site, it's a real estate agent. So a real estate agent calls you and says, I need a website. You know, I want content management. I want events, news. Whoops, this is the wrong, that's what we did last week. Sorry, wrong file. Okay. Bear with me for a second. Pause my share for a sec. Sorry, that was the wrong file. Yes, I'll give you the list here. Don't worry about the link. Okay? Here are all the items. So a real estate agent, this is what they need. They need a content management system. They need to be able to feature all of the properties they have for sale. Within an individual property, they need a photo gallery. They need to be able to show a video tour, a Google map, and a form that somebody can click on that says, I want to come and see that home. They want a mortgage calculator where someone can put in, you know, here's the house I'm looking at, here's how much it costs, here's how much money I have to put down, here's the interest rate, how much will my mortgage payments be? They want news, they want a list in detail, dynamic navigation so they can add, edit, remove links in the navigation. You need to do a custom layout, and then you'll need quality assurance, and I guess also I should have added to the bottom of the list, project management. So this is a bigger site than the one we budgeted last week. So I'm going to set up, so don't worry about my Excel link. You guys can create your own Excel file. So there's the features. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and maybe give you, I don't know, about 15 minutes or so, maybe till about 9:45. And then we'll see if you need more time. And I want you as a team, with your team, to come up with a budget. How much would this cost? So do a low and high. And again, we'll say 25 bucks an hour like we did last week. So what's the best case and what's the worst case of what this project budget might look like? Okay, does anybody have any questions before I set up the breakout rooms? And I'll just need a couple minutes to create the room, minute or two to create the room, and then move everybody into their rooms. Okay, so give me a second and I'll create the breakout rooms, and we'll give you till 9:45 and I'll check in. If you need more time, that's fine. So I'm just going to